So we had a bit of a hiccup with the long range meta, and it is actually probably wider than it's ever been. I think there's going to be a couple go-tos, which we're going to talk about, but with how they tune things, they basically made it so you can use a bunch of different options. One of the biggest changes that they did with this season was the general adjustment, which is the visual effects. That helps a little bit with being able to just see while you're using MW2 guns to kind of align more with MW3. In this particular case, we've also had the Ram 7, which is nerfed. Still pretty good, even after the nerf. That just tells you how broken it was like 2 seasons ago. We got the DG56, you know, they changed sprint to fire, not a real big deal. The main thing that you're going to notice when it comes to long range meta, if it's going to be included in the conversation, it needs to kill relatively fast or have insanely low recoil at the medium to long range. That's like 35, 45, 55, 65 plus meters. And that's kind of where you're going to see the min damage on something like this in the patch notes. I have already updated the spreadsheet. It is a little bit of a work in progress of really fine tuning what people are going to lean towards. I think it's going to be the Subverter, the Bruen, and probably still a little bit of the Ram. But there's going to be a lot of people in the comment section fighting for, why didn't this gun end up on this video? And the reality is it's just really difficult. I think I have 10 or 12 loadouts in this video. So I try to include a lot, even though most people are going to kind of lean towards what their favorites are, because that's really important. Does it kill fast enough? Is it fun to use? And do you like the gun? And a lot of those things will overlap for different people in different ways. And again, that's linked in the description if you want to go ahead and check that out. We do have a lot of loadouts to cover, but I did want to go ahead and cover these details if you kind of were figuring out where you want to choose your gunfight, and depending on how well you can control the gun's recoil. The Subverter ends up being so good just because it has a very reliable, consistent TTK that doesn't really improve or slow down depending on hitting different body parts. Its mag only comes in at 50, but it does essentially allow you to down 2 players pretty consistently. Then we got the Bruen Mark 9. It did get a slight nerf, but it still didn't really impact it all that much. Downs per mag, pretty solid. Ram 7, obviously you can see it does get slow as soon as you get beyond that last damage drop off, and that's kind of where I think, and it used to kill faster in this little mid-range, but they've nerfed it a little bit there. Still pretty solid at 2 downs. Tac Eradicator, a very solid option if you were on the Ram. The only problem with the Eradicator is that weird fire rate issue, but it does have clean iron sights. So if you want to go the iron sight route, pretty solid. If you want to go the optic route, you can go that route. And it has a bigger mag by default, which is nice. Then we get the Holger 556, which is really good. If this had a bigger mag, probably a lot more people would lean into it because, as you can see, the TTK is pretty good and it's really low recoil. So a lot of people can use it. But the problem is that 40 round mag, as you can see right here, starts to suffer a little bit compared to some of the other ones that are a little bit more popular. Then we got the BP50, burn through bullets. Really wish it had a bigger mag. You can see it really suffers in this last category, but it does kill pretty fast. MTC 556, pretty good all the way around. Again, I just wish it had a little bit bigger mag. I feel like some of these guns that have the smaller mag, they're probably great for solos, even duos. But sometimes with trios, especially with the amount of stacking that tends to happen, especially on Rebirth Island at the moment because it's a new map, whatever, it gets a little bit tricky. Then we got the SVA, which I think is really solid. And this is probably like the no nonsense, easy to shoot. Anyone can actually shoot this. You can close their eyes, spam the trigger with the burst fire, and you're still going to shoot straight. Then we get into this next tier of weapons. Doesn't mean they're bad by any means. Tac Evolvere is pretty solid, as you can see by the TTKs. It comes with a default 100 round, but it's an LMG, so it's a little bit slower when it comes to things like reload. The guy's pretty cool. I just wish it had a 60 round mag. And the nice part with this one is if you do get one headshot in the mix for the further damage drop off, that's 1034. It'll drop it down to 940, which, as we can see, is very competitive. Then we got the BAS-B, which all around is pretty good, especially after the nerf that changed the fire rate. The recoil is way more manageable. The 900 though is a little bit deceptive. If you get even one leg shot in the mix, it'll raise the TTK to 1000, which you can see it makes it considerably less competitive. And keeping in mind, this is theoretical TTKs. This assumes 100% accuracy. Obviously it scales a little bit based off the fire rate. The worse the fire rate, generally the more punishing it is when you miss shots, and vice versa when it does fire faster. And then we got the Pulemyot. And this one I think is kind of like the one that like people got bored of, and it's probably one of the best all-around options, especially for something like Rebirth Island or where you're playing a high capacity mode, because you can down quite a bit of people. Reload's still a little bit slow. You do get one headshot, it drops that TTK down to 841. So overall, it's kind of like a beast that people have kind of forgotten. I know some people are going to say, I still use it as my main. Cool. Most people kind of veered away. They were on the Ram 7. They might veer back towards this Pulemyot, which is a fun gun. I wish they got that optic situation handled. It still doesn't really work properly with this particular gun, but it is what it is. And then the Lockman, a lot of people said, hey, check this one out. It does have incredibly low recoil. It does perform significantly better, especially after the buff and the visual change. And over the time, you know, the TTK has risen across the board, but 1245 is just like you have way better options that are low recoil. MCW, I thought I'd include that one. I really wish they'd buff this one a little bit more because I think a lot of people want to use it, especially they're dropping all these kind of cool bundles, but there's not really like a reason to use the gun. It is low recoil though. And I'd probably use this one over the Lockman if you wanted, just because that closer range is 840 TTK instead of the 913. Which also kind of helps out the average damage or down per mag. Wrap, very interesting here. You can see with the one shot headshot, it'll drop it down to 750 in the first damage range. The second one just stays 900, but that is actually a very good gun. Again, reload, ADS, it's an LMG. Kind of got to deal with that. And then you can kind of see the averages here. There's a ton of options. I know I probably left off about 5 or 10 more that you like in the comments. Go ahead and feel free to leave those in the comments if you want to share your build. But we're going to go ahead and jump into the class setup. We've done quite a bit of explaining, so we'll kind of run through these. This is kind of the basic loadout. I've kind of pushed it out because they made it so that the bullet velocity wasn't as good on this thing. And you can see the fire rate is still great. I like the glassless optic on pretty much a lot of them. You could do the 2.5. You could put on the stock to help with a little bit of the recoil if you want to go that route as well. Just the problem with doing something like this is then you lose out a little bit on bullet velocity. 709 is not great. And it's kind of like you don't have a lot of attachments to work with. So they kind of pigeonholed you to use certain attachments. And that's kind of why I was using what I was using. Even though with this one, you probably could have got away with this on a smaller map for Resurgence, because you can see the recoil is significantly better with this build. But again, bullet velocity you might struggle with. The new sniper, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because I'm not a sniper main. There's a lot of great snipers out there that'll cover this gun, mainly for ADS speed. I built this one to be the one-shot demon. Basically, it has infinite range, and the main go-to for that is HVP anti-material slug. That is probably the most important part. You could change everything else on the build. Cool. The other part that's important with this one is to run sleight of hand, because the reload, each reload is a reload. Each time you chamber it is a reload, and it's tied with sleight of hand. So you're going to want to make sure you do that because that will increase the rate of fire. Then we're going to put the barrel on for bullet velocity, and then behind the camera is the quick bolt, which you can see is there. And the quick bolt is set up, obviously, to help you out with that. Straightforward. In the firing range, it won't one shot because snipers are bugged in the firing range. Obviously, these are with one plate, but you can kind of go that route. We got BAS-B. Again, this is the slower firing BAS-B, which is a little bit easier to manage. So you can see before it used to be a little bit faster, but again, could be a little bit tricky. Maybe a good sniper support. But one thing I didn't talk about when we were going over the list is that's what really makes the sniper support so hard. You look at that first damage range of 35 meters. Most of these guns aren't killing that fast. And that's kind of where the WSP-9 or something like that, or even the new Renetti kind of replace that sniper support. And unfortunately, a lot of these get phased out on that close range. And if you decide to use any of these for the close range as sniper support, you're going to have to be really vigilant about how you push certain things, because you're going to get outgunned by fast TTKs up close that have a little bit more versatility in the close range engagements. The TAC Evolvere, pretty straightforward build. Again, this one is a little bit more slow firing. At least it feels a little bit slow, but you can see, not too crazy. You can kind of damage down. The Hyper Burst on the SVA. A lot of people will argue about they having a different build. That's okay. Use what you want. Again, these are just my preferences. If you have an ultimate god meta build that's secret and just to yourself, you can go ahead and share it. Or if you want to go ahead and keep it to yourself, that's okay. I'm still going to use what I want to use for the build because these are my preferences. It's just your choice to copy, or kind of just what I recommend doing is maybe start with my build and then change it to your preferences, because maybe you want faster ADS. Maybe you want faster strafe speed. Maybe you handle recoil better. You can change some attachments around. Maybe you don't like the glassless. Use something else. That is perfectly fine. I'm not telling anyone they have to use these, especially given the fact that you can really choose whatever the heck you want in this current meta and have some great options. MTZ556 is another good build. Again, one of those ones that I really wish it had a bigger mag. This one feels like an M13 just because that fast fire rate, the damage, you know, downs per mag does feel a little limiting. I think it's a potential sniper support, but it's kind of one just because the fast firing rate is a little bit more forgiving for those close range engagements. The BP50 is a very solid option. It does have a lot of vertical rise, so you just have to be used to pulling down on that right analog stick. You don't just let your aim do its work on its own. That's one of the secrets to controlling recoil. You do have to pull down on the right analog stick, and if you're trying to make macro adjustments, you should be strafing left to right for both aim assist, and it's a little bit less sensitive than turning your stick left and right. So if I'm on target, you just pull down, and if I want to adjust, and if I'm slightly off target, instead of using the right one, you just strafe into it. So if I was here, I would just strafe into the target and I wouldn't actually adjust the aim. That's kind of how that one goes. Pretty cool gun. Again, downs per mag will be a struggle. Holger 556. This is one I tried quite a bit. I do like it. I just 40 rounds is so tough in trios or even quads. Obviously you got to time your reloads. Luckily the reloads aren't slow on the gun because it does have that mag size, but it works out. I would just really wish it had like a 60, even a 55, 50, 45, something. 40 is a little bit low. There's been very seldom that guns with 40 round mag have been meta, and all the ones that have are high damage guns, which the Holger doesn't happen to be a high damage gun. And then we got the TAC Eradicator, which is pretty cool. Again, the nice part about this one though is the bullet velocity. You can crank the bullet velocity, get like 1500. Not really practical in every scenario, but I do like this, that you can get some really good bullet velocity and then you can still build it the way you'd want, and you get this free attachment with the round mag. If you want to go iron sights, you get another attachment that's completely free as well, because then you could just drop that, maybe put on ammunition, you could put on a rear grip for even more recoil management, or you can go 50 round, 150 round drum if you want to go really crazy. You even want to go 45 round just to speed yourself up, you can do that, but that's kind of how that one will work out. And then the RAM, we still got the same RAM we've been using forever. I'll go ahead and show you that a little bit longer because obviously some people screenshot and then click away. So there we go. We got that. Boom, boom, and oh, there's the micro adjustment. There we go. Pretty solid. And then we got what I think is probably what most people lean into. A lot of people like the Bruen or the SOA, right? Subverter. The Bruen, I've tried different builds. I really wish it didn't have these nonsense MWIII attachments. I really wish that wasn't, but kind of how it goes. And then you just use it that way. You get your quick reload in. Micro adjustment. I wish I could strafing the firing range because then I can actually aim the way you do in game. But there's partitions. I don't know. Like, it's like they set up a firing range and they didn't actually experience it. Like, oh, this is practical. No, they said, let's do generic firing range that we copied over from Modern Warfare 2. So there's this build on this one. I do not like the iron sight build. You can go ahead and do the iron sight build if you want. I know some people swear by that, but the problem is as soon as the gun kicks up a little bit, you lose a little visibility, which makes it hard to shoot a gun, especially when you need to be accurate. And I think this one, it does have a really good TTK, but the problem is the little kick in the recoil. And I've experimented with a ton of different attachments, and that little jiggle doesn't seem like much, but when somebody's at 60 meters, it is enough to miss some shots on occasion, especially if you throw in flinch. So just kind of keep that in mind. Appreciate the support. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.